Welcome to the show, Dr. Reese.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, you're a prolific writer. You've written 10 books on a multitude of medical topics. You're known as a head to toe healer, which that's what, in my opinion, my humble opinion, everyone should be. So, we were talking before we started recording. My doctorate's in physical rehabilitation, and I literally had an orthopedic surgeon ask me one time, why are you working on this patient's knee when or why are you working on their hip when it's their knee that's causing them pain? I said, what's that bone? Femur. He's like, why would you ask me that? I said, well, what's that bone?
It
The femur.
connects.
Oh, imagine that. It's the same bone.
Yeah.
Oh, what a novel concept. But I mean, literally, you can have a big toe, lack of great toe extension, that leads to a mid-thoracic spine issue. You can have an upper cervical spine that's locked up that leads to a lumbar issue. So talk to us about, connecting the dots, both physiologically and biomechanically.
Yeah. Well, it happened to me, I guess you can say by accident. I was into nutrition, I was into mindfulness. I didn't have an understanding of the musculoskeletal system. And then my body started breaking down in my late 30s from, I've been at a computer for 20, 25 years and, slunched over doing all this and I couldn't figure it out. And then one day, somebody introduced me to postural alignment therapy. And I started meeting people that were getting out of wheelchairs. And I'm like, you didn't change your diet at all? And they're like, no, I eat Doritos. I'm like, what? And I'm just like, so I tried it and I was out of pain in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I went back to school at like 40 years old, which was very difficult, by the way.
Yeah.
The human mind isn't meant for school at 40 years old. It's like you want to slam your head against a wall.
Right.
It was very difficult. And so I learned the musculoskeletal system to the best of my ability as quick as possible. And I learned this new therapy as quick as possible. And then I combined it with the nutrition and the mindfulness. And that's what I call head to toe healing. And it connects everything. So, if there's something wrong with your feet, I want to see your ears. If there's something wrong with your ears, I want to see your feet. And so I started evaluating bodies through photos and being able to zoom in on the feet and see how even looking at the direction the toes are going in is going to tell me how they're walking, things like this. And it just blew people's minds. And eventually it just blew up on social media and I ended up attracting an audience. But yeah, we have tons of testimonies, um, all on video and it's working.
Talk to us about what is postural alignment therapy. Who's the founder of that therapy?
As far as I know, it's Peter Agascu. And he
Okay,
came out,
yeah. I have his book somewhere.
yeah, he came out with a method called the Agascu method. All I've done is just stood on his shoulders. It's in that category. I'm standing on everyone's shoulders.
Right,
I tell people all the time, I didn't invent the bread. I didn't invent the peanut butter. I didn't invent the jelly. I just made the sandwich.
right.
So I have no problem with saying I'm standing on other people's shoulders. And yeah, Peter Goskew is definitely the godfather, if you will, of postural therapy. There's also the Alexander technique from back in the day.
Hmm.
There's a bunch of other techniques out there, but the bottom line is muscles move bones.
Right,
So if we get the muscles back in order, the bones will come back. I mean, it's not going to take 2 days. It might take 2 years.
right.
So yeah, that it's a very powerful understanding.
Yeah, I'm doing right now oral myofunctional therapy because I have a tongue tie and I have to have it released. But you don't want to release a tongue tie if you haven't retrained the muscles of the tongue and face. And my colleague tells me that because it's non-ablative now, it's just done with a laser. He says when he does it, or I have several people told me this, when they release it, they have people, they can feel the release all the way down, to their lumbar spine, sacrum because of the fascial connections.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. The fascia is just like elastic bands just connecting everything. I've studied the whole body. I've studied
Yeah,
everything, man. The brain, the feet, everything. Nothing's more fascinating than the musculoskeletal system, in my opinion, because it's the
I
actual vehicle. It's the actual structure that we walk around Earth with. And the way I
yeah,
teach it is nutrition is the fuel that goes into the vehicle.
right,
And then mindfulness training, that's just getting the onboard computer in line. Every machine has an onboard computer, at least in this era. And
right.
so those are the three sections. And if you get them in order, the body heals. And
I
yeah,
just interviewed Dr. Suzanne Faree, who's a medical doctor, but she does neural therapy, injection of procaine into scars and fascia trigger points. And she talks about the importance of fascia for emotional release,
yeah,
trauma. It's not just a structural component, but it's like the internet of the body, you
right,
know?
right. No, we have people who are doing their therapy and they're just laying there in static back. So they're laying on the floor and their feet are up in a 90-degree angle on a block or an ottoman and they start crying.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful because I remember there's 5 universities where, as an undergrad student, you get to dissect a cadaver, and Wake Forest, where I went, was one of them. And I remember the first thing you see, it's not muscles, it's the fascia, you know? And I had a professor who described the fascia as like, if you're eating a piece of chicken, it's like the grit on the chicken bone,
Yeah,
but it's a
yeah.
lot more than just connection. But have you seen people who do myofascial release or any sort of myofunctional therapy have great improvements, not just in their posture, but their neurological health?
I've seen other people do it, yeah. But we get the same results and we don't have to touch anyone.
Right,
So, I that's why I'm promoting this head to toe healing thing so hard. That's why I'm promoting it as a brand, if you will, or a new thing.
right,
Because people don't understand the word
understand the word
holistic.
holistic.
So let's throw that one out. Alternative,
Right,
let's throw that one out.
right,
Uh, functional, let's throw that one out too. Well, when you say
yeah,
head to toe, man, they're like, oh, okay. And some people will come to me and be like, yeah, um, I have a hernia. What do I do? Uh, I'm like, well, is it between your head and your toes?
right,
They're like, I have hip pain. Is it between your head and your toes? So we don't have to touch anyone, Dr. Jackson, and that is the miracle of it. The postural alignment therapy takes care of the muscles,
right,
and they will have those releases, the same releases from the guys that are doing the physical stuff. And
yeah,
maybe the physical stuff it happens faster because it's a manipulation.
right,
But we're getting it. We're getting the same thing, man. We're getting the crying and this and that and miracles, man. Every day.
yeah.
Every
So
day.
talk to us. I'm looking at your website and you've written quite a bit. Um, cheat code. What exactly is that? I mean, it looks like it's about the central nervous system, correct?
Kind of.
Kind of. Okay.
Cheat Code is my favorite book because it's my favorite topic. And it's just about mindfulness training and how to achieve inner peace and how to deal with the harsh reality of life because life is one big harsh reality. I mentioned death.
Absolutely.
I mentioned death to someone the other day and they just stopped me cold. No, I don't want to talk about that, you know? And so it's about facing your emotions and facing the harsh realities. And in the book Cheat Code, which we call the Purple Book, I teach people how to go inside themselves and work with what I call the inner child, which
Right.
is really the subconscious mind. So, yes, it deals with the nervous system in that way, but the subconscious mind more so as being this piece of programming deep inside you that can get scared
Right.
and get angry.
And do you find that people over time they open up to doing the inner child work?
Yeah, we have a woman in our membership right now that's all over it. And so every Tuesday when we do our meetings, she hops on and is asking me questions. And she's like, "Oh, I started crying about this thing that happened to me when I was 12." And she's like deep into it. Now, not everyone goes that deep, unfortunately, because you need to.
Right.
You need to. But not everyone does. Some people are really hardcore into their religion and they think like it interferes in some way. It doesn't. Religion is outward, mindfulness is inward. And you can have both.
Absolutely. In terms of things like environmental toxicity, is that something you still address with clients?
Yeah, we have some courses in our membership, like a mold rescue. We have a candida rescue. We have a heavy metal rescue, lymphatic rescue, all helping people detox a little bit. But ultimately, if you practice head to toe healing, the body should take care of it. Sometimes you need an assist and detox. But for the most part, your liver and your lymph system and your kidneys are going to do their work on their own.
Right.
Sometimes people need that boost. I used to
Absolutely.
be a detox specialist. That's how I got into health. So I know too much about detox and I've seen some bad things. I've seen people die.
Yeah.
They detox themselves to death.
Yeah. Especially if you're not replenishing the good stuff, you're just
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah. They don't
deplete.
understand that you're not just, the waste isn't just coming out, it's also the nutrition.
Right. Especially in people, with mold toxicity. I work with a lot of people with mold toxicity, and a lot of times their electrolytes are low. But I've had a number of people who they're doing coffee enemas once, sometimes twice a day, and you can get very ill from the electrolytes dropping. Your body
Oh,
obviously keeps them within a very narrow range.
oh my God.
And so, I try to caution against that. Too much fasting too soon. Fasting, I think it's a nuanced conversation. If you have a lot of stress and your metabolic flexibility is not good, you jump into like an 8-day fast or a 7-day fast, you could really make yourself worse, and your cortisol levels are going to go way up, and that's going to jack up your mindset. So, I think you do have to proceed with caution. It seems like people are either on this end of the spectrum or this end, but very few people are in the center. What would you say is the biggest issue, impediment to healing that you see today?
Like the biggest challenge or blockage
Yeah,
from my people or just people in general?
just people in general. Yeah,
I think the biggest challenge is just getting people away from what I call the medical monopoly. That alone is a hurdle,
yeah,
you know? And that's why I wrote this book, the Red Book. And this is meant to be almost like a 200-page pamphlet. So, your aunt is going down the tubes, let's just say, and everything's my doctor this, my doctor that, and you're just, you want to say, no, you got to go in this direction. And so that's why I wrote this book so that you can hand it to her. And if she doesn't read it, then there's no hope, period.
right,
Um, but, so you don't have to be the bad guy. I can be your bad guy. I'll be the bad guy. I'm already the bad guy. I get nailed every day on social media and I get death threats in the mail and I've been debanked. So I'm already at the point of no return unless I shave my head and go to the mountains. So yeah, that's why I wrote this book. Pass it around. That's the biggest blockage to healing is people unplugging from their medical monopoly system.
yeah. There's a book, I haven't read it yet. It's written by an MD called Medical Mafia.
Yeah.
I think it's always a good idea to listen to people who have nothing to gain and everything to lose, because, some people will write books and they're entirely accurate, but the average person will say, "Oh, well, they sell this." I'm like, okay, but that doesn't make what they're saying untrue. But if they're an MD and they say it, they've got everything to lose. And so, you
People are
see
waking up. Doctors are waking up too. Some of them, they're leaving and they're getting on social media and TikTok and whatnot, and they're becoming influencers. And then you go in their bio and it says, "This is not medical advice," because they don't want to get in trouble.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's scary because, if you agree with the narrative, you can say, as much as you want and you're fine. But if you say something that's diametrically opposed, like the experimental gene therapy in your arm, it's probably not a good idea. The absolute risk reduction is 0.86%, then they'll attack you. Even though, that's from study, that's the data, it's not anyone's opinion. Um, but I agree with you. So people outsource their thinking to these, three-letter alphabet agencies. Now it's getting, well, you and I have known for a while, but now more and more people are learning that these are not objective third-party agencies who just, are doing quote unquote science. It's basically like dogma, like polished dogma. And then, they cherry pick. Like if you do 10 studies and nine of them are negative, you just don't report the nine, you report the one. And even that, there's a good book. You probably read it. It's called or How Statistics Lie.
I haven't, no, I haven't read it.
And it's basically, just about like, during the past 5 years, the numbers they were giving were relative risk reduction, not absolute risk reduction. And so it was very misleading. It made it sound like more positive than negative,
Hmm,
but that simply wasn't the case.
interesting. Yeah, in my book, I talk about, over testing. And over testing leads to over diagnosis, and over diagnosis leads to over treatment. And so you got people dying from treatment,
Yeah,
and they don't realize that these medical people have malpractice insurance. And so they don't want to get a claim. So in order to not get a claim, you have to over test because you can't have a patient walk away and be like, no, no, you didn't test this and you didn't test that. And they're testing everything but the nutrition.
right.
And it's just a big mind trick and it's hurting a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think you see a lot of doctors going from conventional medicine into integrative medicine, functional medicine, whatever we want to call it. But you almost never see, or I've never seen anyone go from functional medicine back to conventional.
Right. Right.
And a
No.
lot of times, as you know, it usually takes them experiencing a health challenge or a family member experiencing a health challenge.
Yep. Yep. You got to go through the harsh reality sometimes to wake up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
So now, do you have any sort of lab testing that you do with people?
We have, we will run lab work inside the membership, but it's not us. It's just, an affiliate. So we don't do anything hands-on. Everything is affiliate.
Gotcha.
And but our analysis, our head to toe analysis is very thorough. It's at a macro level. I'm looking at their feet, their knees, their hips, their spine, their neck, their ears. I'm looking at their nutritional profile. I'm looking at their mental health, and I'm connecting the dots on that. And all in, 7 to 10 minutes. So I feel the head to toe analysis is the best way to go. And then, you get lab work later on if
Yeah,
something's not going away or something like that.
right.
In other words, what I'm saying is lab work is the micro and my analysis is the macro. Now, I prefer to look at things from a macro level,
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
a global level, and not go all the way into the little details. Although
Yeah.
you do sometimes have to, of course.
Yeah. I mean, you can't out supplement or out eat a bad environment. If you've got black mold in the wall next to you, or, there's a 5G tower, 100 yards from your house, those things um, can't be out supplemented, or there's no IV therapy or biohack. You got to change your environment. So talk to us a little bit about, because I think people a lot of times think it's a myth about the medical monopoly, medical mafia. You said you received death threats and things like that. Why would people threaten or come after you? Obviously, the system's deeply entrenched, but did they say why they were coming after you?
So there's four types of people that come after me. The first one is the haters, and that's to be expected, and that's not a big deal. That's somebody that hops on and says, I don't like the way this guy talks. Um, a lot of people think I'm high because I'm so calm. Um, and then the second is the debaters, and they're okay too. They say, no, you're wrong. You're an idiot. That's fine. The third type is the husbands, because my audience is mostly women and they seem to like me a little bit. And so they're mentioning me in the kitchen, and the husbands are like, what, why you keep mentioning this Kevin guy, this Dr. Reese guy? So I've been approached by some husbands. And then the fourth kind is the problem, and that's the vigilantes, as I call them. And those are the people that legit think that I'm dangerous. They legit think I'm a quack, I'm a charlatan, and I'm literally guiding people to their death. Even though I have an incredible amount of testimonies on video, they will even go, no, you probably hired those people. They're actors. So these people are the ones that really come after me, and they report me, and they send death threats, and they make comments like, I can't wait till somebody puts a bullet through this guy's head. And
Have you had to call the cops?
I've never called the cops, no. I've received threats in the mail, snail mail, but my thought process is this. Those people probably aren't a real threat. They're just a vigilante that thinks they're doing something right. Um, the real threat is these people. That's the real threat. And they're not going to make threats. They're
Right,
not. They're going to hire someone
right.
to do something very bad and probably get away with it. And in the book, I mentioned that they did do that in 2016. There was a lot of holistic and alternative doctors that were eliminated
Yeah,
in 1 year. And so that's what they do. And they try and make it sound like it's a suicide. And
yeah,
that's their little thing. And so they're the ones to worry about. It's not the people on social media. They're just
right.
expressing themselves. The vigilantes can be a problem sometimes. The husbands can be a problem sometimes.
Yeah.
This just happened a few months ago. I was walking downtown West Hartford before the winter. It was decent out, and people were eating outside. They have the fire things, the ambiance at restaurants.
Mhm.
And this woman spots me, and she's like, "Oh my God, it's you. I watch you on TikTok." And she jumps up out of her seat and comes over to me. And I could feel her love and her passion. There's nothing wrong. I'm like, "Oh, nice to meet you." But behind her was a man sitting in the seat who was just abandoned. So just imagine, are you married?
No.
Okay. Well, just imagine being out with your lady, and all of a sudden she jumps up and runs to another man
Yeah.
while you're eating dinner. You're gonna be like, what
What's
what is
happening?
going on, right?
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, I mean, he was cool. I mean, I don't know what he said after it happened, but I went over and I shook his hand, introduced myself because I don't that there, jealousy can turn to evil real quick. And so it's like, and this is my life outside my house sometimes, it's like a surreal type of thing. Social media is the new t television and radio.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, I figure, if you're not pissing someone off by noon, you're not doing something right. And it's funny how dogmatic people get when, I said something on social media a few months ago about atrazine, disrupting hormones. And someone said, how does it feel to wear a tinfoil hat? I'm like, this is biochemistry. This is not like conspiracy theory. Like, go to PubMed, type in atrazine, like all of this is, you can easily verify it. But people assume that if they haven't heard it from the 6 o'clock news, then it's not true. And I'm like, you're not going to hear it. And by the time, and if you are to ever hear it, it'll be like 40 years too late, you know?
Yeah, the news is a problem. Yeah,
What
yeah,
what was so Sunlight Sunny? Talk to us
yeah,
about that book.
yeah, it's right up there. Um, Sunlight Sunny is a children's book about a superhero that's the son of the sun, and he flies around and he tries to help children not eat junk food from the evil Mr. Junkerson at the junk food factory. And so this is my big project that I foresee my future being involved in. I want to continue to produce that, and we have a cartoon. I've paid to have the animations made. We got the songs, we got the voices. I mean, we got everything. I'm just trying to figure out um, budgeting. If I was going to go full bore, I would have to get a loan or an investor because animation is crazy expensive. But that's really my plan. So I sacrificed Dr. Reese to get to Sunlight Sunny.
What do you mean by sacrifice, Dr. Reese?
Well, I have to come out here and be controversial and put myself on the line to make myself quote unquote popular
Yeah.
and then transfer everyone over there when it's time.
And why did you get deplatformed?
I've been canceled a few times on TikTok. I don't know why. Again, it's the vigilantes reporting me, but we just come back, you know. I did get debanked. That was quite a headache, and it's still lingering now doing the taxes. It's like,
What? How could they come after? Who came after your bank?
I have no idea. The bank just sent me a letter and said, you violated our policy. You need to leave.
Did they say what policy?
No, no, no. We have no power. Zero. Like I could sue, but they have bit bigger and better lawyers. And at the end of the day, they would just prove that I violated their policy. So they make a policy that's very open so that anything you do, you're gone.
Violation.
Violation, right? And so I would just have to assume that they did an audit. They audit their business accounts and they saw what I'm doing and they're like, we don't want any parts of that. Or somebody called them and said, get this guy out. I don't know. All I know is it was quite a challenge and headache.
Were your assets frozen?
No,
No. Okay.
no, I just had to transfer it out. But from a bookkeeping, tax standpoint, business standpoint, it's a big kick in the you know what.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate that that happened. It sounds like people have way too much time on their hands. We've got 8 million medical crises going on, obesity crisis, toxicity crisis, stress crisis, circadian mismatch, and sleep disruption crisis. and they're worried about you posting videos on TikTok.
Yeah.
So what do you think is in the future? I know you have a few other things in the works. What are you working on now?
Well, I think now it's like all the ducks are in a row, so it's just a matter of just promoting, just continue promoting and letting people understand what head to toe healing is. And, it's bigger than this Dr. Reese guy. Um, we want to start doing meetings and just, we have almost 300 people in our membership, so we have a nice little family that's brewing, a nice little membership. And, these people, can get out there and spread the word and create like a little army.
Yeah,
Everyone knows somebody that's struggling, and if the ducks are in a row and we got the books and we got the this and we got the that, then essentially I'm looking at us becoming, the healing version of AA,
yeah,
where, you're struggling with your knees, or you're struggling with your fibromyalgia, you're struggling with your brain health, whatever it is, come to a meeting.
yeah.
Start there, come to a meeting.
So you mentioned people, quote unquote, think you're high because you're so calm.
Yeah.
Have you always been this zen?
No.
No.
No, no, it's been an evolutional process for me. I used to be very loud, and I'd do public speaking and my hands would be flying everywhere, and I'd be, high energy, like watching a stand-up comedian almost. And then
Right.
after years and years of mindfulness training and meditation, and I've come way down, and my speaking patterns have changed. And there's pregnant pauses, and some people hate it and some people absolutely love it. But no, I'm very, very, very calm, and it just comes very naturally now.
Yeah. And in terms of your membership, if people are interested in joining, can they go to your website and
Yeah, drkevinreese.com. You can watch the testimonies there as well. And there's a button that says start.
okay.
Hit the button start, and you'll learn all about head to toe healing. And then you hop on the phone with one of my coaches and talk it through. See if it's the right fit for you. I believe it's the right fit for everyone. I strongly believe that this is the future, and I don't know how long it's going to take for that to manifest,
Yeah.
but I think this is the future. I think people are going to be doing head to toe healing from the comfort of their own homes. Nobody has to touch you. You just practice. You practice it just like it was yoga or meditation. You practice it. You don't need an appointment with your doctor, blah, blah, blah. You just practice it. And you go to the medical system if there's an emergency and an urgent situation. That's how I feel about it.
And in terms of the group meetings, is there like a curriculum or do you guys have a different topic every week?
We have a class every day. And so some of them are PAT classes, doing the exercises. Some of them are nutrition classes. So you can bring your issues to the nutritional specialist. And he'll be like, all right, let's do this and let's do that. Let's change this, talking about supplements or diet, you know. It's it's it, it's one-on-one attention in a group setting
Right,
is what it is. And by doing that, we can avoid practicing without a license.
right, right.
And then,
Absolutely.
yeah, and then our group meeting is just on Tuesdays, and that's where I am. That's the only class I'm in, and then, or meeting that I'm in, and they can ask me questions and whatnot. And, sometimes it's not even about questions. It's just, we're just vibing, just, talking, and they just report their victories. And of course, we're recording it. So we're constantly getting testimonies constantly. This person's like, I had a walker for 20 years, now I don't. I had a cane, I had to walk with a cane, now I don't. This person, fibromyalgia for 40 years, now I don't. One person's vocal cords regenerated the other day. They're like, I had to have vocal cord surgery, and all of a sudden I didn't need anything anymore. It just regenerated. I had never met these people in my life.
Yeah.
Never
And
touched them, never met with them. They just pop up on the screen like, Dr. Reese, I gotta tell you.
was there any supplementation involved in those
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
cases? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They practice what I teach. But what I teach is all recorded. So
Right.
I've set up a platform that's going to last longer than me. So that's the goal, is for even when, Kevin's not on this earth anymore, people could still get into the head to toe healing membership,
Right.
you know? It's like, every day we hop on the crapper. Well, that was from Thomas Crapper. Nobody cares about Thomas Crapper, but you're glad you got a crapper.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true.
every now and again, someone can come along and invent something. It's not about them. It's about the invention,
Right.
because nobody really remembers you anyway. Your family might remember you, but they're going to die too.
Right.
So we're just making sandcastles,
Yeah,
and eventually it's
that's
going to be
true.
wiped out by the waves and the wind.
Yeah.
So accepting that is important. That's something that would be in that purple book, the cheat code.
Right. Things that you know today you wish you would have known 10 to 12 years ago.
Just in general.
Just in general and also health related.
Well, health related, I wish I knew postural alignment therapy. That would have been a game changer. Who knew that sitting at the computer for all those years and sitting with my legs crossed on a bed, hunched over, typing on a laptop was going to affect me that bad? I didn't know.
Yeah.
So that would have been big. Um, 10 to 12 years ago. Yeah, I mean, on the personal level, I mean, I probably wish I understood female nature more,
Yeah.
you know, and had a better dating life, maybe.
Yeah.
I understand it now.
There you go. Maybe you need a security guard.
Yeah, well, I do have one. Um, but he, you know, on a day-to-day basis, it gets expensive.
Yeah.
So I only bring him out for certain events right now.
Gotcha. Well, awesome. So people can find you at drkevinreese.com. We're going to put up the links and the link to your social media. Thank you for the work that you're doing,
Thank you.
and hopefully we can have you back on in the future.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Have a blessed day.
You too.